Star Wars The Last Jedi came out a month ago. We've had a month to let everything sink in. All the stuff we liked, all the stuff we didn't like. There's a period where you need to do some mental digesting, right? Time is a factor in something as big as Star Wars. For whatever reason, our opinions on the franchise as a whole and individual elements within it tend to change. So 1 month later, how am I feeling about The Last Jedi? Out of the 9 live-action Star Wars movies we've had so far, I tend to put The Last Jedi either in my 4th or 5th favorite position. Those 2 positions are filled with The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. Tomorrow, TLJ might be my 4th favorite, and the next day it might be in the 5th position. It just depends on what mood I'm in, I guess. I'm wishy-washy like that. My favorite aspects of the film are how the characters, old and new, were handled. I loved the unpredictability of the movie. I loved how it played into the mystery. I loved how it added more to the Force mythos. I loved the action, both big and small. I thought the overall narrative was extremely satisfying, and I'm curious where Episode 9 will take things. Kylo Ren is now the supreme leader. He's a loose cannon, he's unpredictable, and he's fun as hell to watch. He has one of my favorite presences in the Star Wars franchise. Adam Driver, you magnificent bastard. It's kind of funny and dumb, I guess, but whenever I go into a Star Wars movie for the first time, I do have an inexplicable nervous feeling. I don't know why. I think it's just because with something new that's associated with stuff I love, I want it to be good. I want it to be good. I guess it could be compared to when you're about to watch your favorite insert sports team here play a game, and you're excited as hell but also nervous as hell. You just want it to be good, right? Please be good. So after my first TLJ viewing, I really enjoyed the movie, but I had gripes. And then after my second viewing, those gripes started shrinking and shrinking. And on my third viewing, I was able to kick back and enjoy the ever-living shit out of the movie. I don't really know how to explain this phenomenon, from super tense to loosey-goosey and just riding the ride. I'm still not a fan of Leia flying, I'm still not a fan of most of the Canto Bight plot's execution, and while I initially found a lot of the humor to be off-putting, after multiple viewings, I've realized it's relatively subdued, especially after the first third of the film. Hell, I'll fully admit that during my first viewing when Finn called Captain Phasma Chrome Dome, I winced a little bit. But is that really a moment that justifies a wince? See, we have a tendency to look past goofy lines or moments in films that we like and grew up with, and when we see or hear similar scenes in a new chapter, we're older, we're more critical, and maybe more cynical. Leia calls Chewbacca a walking carpet, Han calls Chewbacca a fuzzball. C-3PO was always a butt of jokes. Leia and Han were constantly bickering and throwing out one-liners. Really, there are so many wisecracks and humorous lines in the original trilogy, and I think people tend to forget that. Like I said, we tend to forget things that were just as goofy in the films that we love. There's like a mental block, I don't know how to describe it. So was there more humor in The Last Jedi than normal? Maybe. I'd love for someone to come up with a quantifiable measure of humor from film to film. I think that would be interesting. Then again, scratch that idea. Just have fun. Humor and enjoyment levels are often subjective and hard to quantify. Whatever. The one thing that still makes me wince a little bit is when Luke Skywalker brushes his shoulder off on Crate. I mean, on a second viewing and knowing that Luke isn't actually there, it makes a bit more sense and it's not that bad. But for whatever reason, that's one of the things that feels out of place to me. It doesn't make me like the film any less, though. And hey, maybe it'll grow on me. As is apparent in the Star Wars fandom for the past 40 years, things that are initially dismissed by audiences and critics sometimes end up being moments everyone loves as the younger viewers start to have a voice. That'll probably be the case forever and ever until Star Wars is no longer a thing. The younger generation will watch their new films, love them, ignore the sea of negativity because they're too young to digest that and look at it, and then when they grow up, they'll have their own voice and defend the movies that they grew up with. That's probably a reality we'll always see in Star Wars fandom. I really like The Last Jedi. I do have gripes, but that's normal. For me, the good vastly outweighs the bad. I think Rian Johnson did a fantastic job. And hey, my younger cousins, nieces, and nephews, who have seen all of the Star Wars movies, have all said their favorite movies are The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. So, they're doing something right. HelloGreedo, out.